Don't do it. Do not buy a 3D printer. Now, why would I tell you not to buy a 3D printer in 2025? Seems like they're very popular. Everybody is kind of getting into it. People are turning into a business. So why not buy one? Well, if you're anything like me and have an addictive personality, it's just another thing that you're going to get addicted to and buy everything for it, and then probably eventually turn it into a business. And next thing you know, you have no more time, even though you already didn't have a bunch of time. And it's just another thing that is going to kind of consume you. And that's kind of what's happened to me is I've started kind of getting into 3D printing, and now it's to the point to where I just received another 3D printer and it's sitting in the other room right now printing off stuff that I'm going to sell. So that's where I'm at. But no, I really do think you should buy one because they are really cool. If they solve a lot of problems, and it's so easy nowadays. But I'm going to tell you kind of a backstory that's how I got into it and where it's going. So if you're somebody that's looking into getting into 3D printing, or you're learning about 3D printing and especially looking to sell stuff online, well, hit that subscribe button because that's kind of what I'm going to be doing a video series on, is my process going through 3D printing and turning it into a business, or adding it to the business that I already have, which we'll go over. So hit that subscribe button. It's totally free, and you'll be notified when I come out with those videos. And you'll see in the next video what printer I just bought. So 3 weeks ago, I knew nothing about 3D printing. I didn't care for it. I didn't want to get into it. I'm like, I need to stay away because it's something that I would heavily probably get invested in, and just not something I had time for. I already have 3 YouTube channels, a podcast, I have a side business and a day job and a bunch of other stuff. I don't have time for this, but look where we're at now. So my buddy was in the 3D printing for a long time, and he's kind of showed me some stuff that he's done and printed off. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. You know, not really some things that I found practical, but I'm like, hey, that's cool that you can actually do that from your house. And well, he had like 2 or 3 of these endors laying around, and he ended up getting a Bamboo Labs A1 Mini because it was on sale. And ever since then, he's been re-addicted and printing off a bunch of stuff. And I actually needed him to print off something for me. If you're familiar with the Rode NTH100 headphones, these things are amazing. I highly recommend them if you're doing any sort of video editing, podcasting, just anything that you need a headphone for. These things are awesome. But one problem with these are these locking things right here. They break easily and all the time. And one broke on a pair that I had, and I reached out to Rode. I'm like, hey, thinking that they would send me just the parts so I can fix it. But no, they sent me a brand new set of headphones and let me keep the ones that were broken. And to me, it's a waste because there was nothing wrong with the headphones other than the plastic piece that broke off just needs to be fixed. Well, looking online, there's people that have made those parts. And so I'm like, hey, make me the part, and we have an extra pair of Rode headphones. That'll be awesome. And instead of doing that, he brought over the printer, even though I told him not to, because I told him, you bring that over, I'm going to get addicted. And of course, when we recorded a podcast a few weeks ago, he brought it over, and it's been an obsession ever since then. So when he brought this over, knowing nothing about 3D printing, never actually seen a 3D printer in real life, I had no idea what to do. So what I did was, just like anybody else, got on YouTube and started watching videos and learning as much as I could, especially on this specific model, because I had no idea. I know there's an on button, but other than that, I have no idea how to use it, what filament to use. Turns out there's a lot of different types of filaments and colors, and yeah. So I watched a bunch of videos on this one in particular on how to work it and stuff like that, and these things were popular. They came out in 2020. It's a Creality Ender 3 V2. So it's been around for quite a while. It's actually outdated. The last firmware update was in 2022, and they obviously have newer models today. So this is kind of an outdated model. And as you'll see in the next video, the printer I have now has come a long way from this. But I'm like, you know what? It's free. I didn't pay for it, so why not? I'll try it out. And finally got it set up. It took a little while because it is, everything manual. You have to manually level the bed, and you can only do one filament color at a time. I pretty much stuck with one filament color for each print. But once I figured out the process of getting a 3D model, putting it into a slicer, and then putting it into an SD card and putting it in here, it's a little bit of a process. But once I figured that out and actually had stuff printing, I was hooked. I'm like, this is awesome. And then, with the business side of me, I'm like, man, I could honestly probably print stuff off I could sell on the business that I have, and got into that. So I started looking at YouTube videos as far as people starting 3D printing businesses, and there are a ton out there. There's people that got complete printing farms. Now, I definitely don't want to go that far. I do not want a printing farm. Maybe having 2 or 3 printers printing stuff 24/7, sure, but I don't want a printing farm. Fingers crossed that doesn't happen, but we'll see. But, it's just something that is really easy to get into, and once you kinda learn how it works, there's a lot you can do with this kinda stuff. Not just print off stuff to sell or just print off, like, little knickknacks and stuff like that, but you can actually fix problems that you have around the house on, like, certain products. If you find a defect in it or could improve upon it, you can design it or have somebody design it for you, print it out, and there you go. And then you can sell the file that you modeled or sell the product. There's a lot of stuff you can do with these 3D printers, and they've become a lot faster. And now with the app, you can be sitting at the coffee shop, send it to your printer, and by the time you get home, the product's already printed out. But since this is an older model, there was a learning curve. And if I would say anything, I would recommend it to people that aren't necessarily sure if they're going to want to get into 3D printing. You can find these all day long on Facebook Marketplace for about $100, give or take. And they already have a bunch of upgrades done to it. So you really don't have to put any money into it. It's just learning how to use it. And then, of course, buying the filament. But then with filament, once you buy one, next thing you know, you have stacks and stacks of filament. Ask me how I know. So that does add up. But if you can get into it for pretty cheap, and then if you decide you don't like it, awesome. You could probably turn around and sell it for about the same price that you bought it for. But then if you find out that, hey, this is something I really want to do and get a better printer that's more up to date, you're going to love it. And you're going to appreciate the printers nowadays. Because if you start off with something like this, that's really manual, and just the setup to get it to print takes a lot of work, and it is super slow. You're going to appreciate the printers and how far technology has come. So I wasn't sure what I was going to print initially when I was learning this, but I found a bunch of free files that people had already modeled, and I just had to put it into a slicer and do it. And honestly, it printed out a lot better than I thought. I did this really cool modeling of a Game of Thrones castle. If you're into Game of Thrones, this is the Red Keep. And this was a long project. It took about 26 hours for this thing to actually print, but it actually did a lot better than I thought it would. The detail that it did was pretty impressive for a printer this old. The only downside is it took 26 hours to print, and I can only do it in one color. And then I also tried the dragon's egg, and that was really cool. That was another 20 plus hour print. And then I also printed off a couple vases, one that I actually sold. So got some money for that. But the vases themselves with the structure and everything, I did make them a little bit bigger because the original files were pretty small. But again, taking 20 some hours to print, that's not really something that you can use if you want to mass produce stuff. So did a lot of research on a new printer and finally decided on one, got it on like a sale that I would have gotten previously, but I talked myself out of it. And then I kind of just kicked myself for not buying it in the first place, but found it on sale, got delivered today. So putting a video together on that. So that printer will be revealed in the next video. But like I said, it's already printing off stuff that I plan to sell. So while this was a great printer, I think I don't know if I'm going to retire it, but I might still use it for some prints for myself that I want to print out, just not really to sell. And if it takes a long time, not a big deal, just because that other one in there is working. So I'll probably still use this one, but I would only recommend it if you're not sure if you want to get into 3D printing. If you are more than likely sure that's something you want to get into, you can get a Bamboo Lab A1 Mini for like $200 on sale. And that thing is going to be much more user-friendly. But the fact that I know how to manually do everything and actually kind of work on a 3D printer kind of makes it easier to run the new ones because I kind of know the process that it's doing as far as calibration and things like that. So having this older printer as my first one kind of helped me appreciate what the newer printers are doing today and just, again, how far technology has come. So as far as the selling side of things, so I do, like I said, have a side business that I already have. I do have a firearms company where I sell, guns and accessories and stuff like that. But gun sales have been slow. A lot of people are buying stuff online from the big box stores, which I get. You can get it from cheaper than buying from me or a local shop. But I want to find a way to kind of come out with some stuff that's different that I can sell online too or at trade shows. Because selling guns, there is obviously the paperwork and the background process, and it's a little bit harder, but actually doing kind of finding things to sell that would kind of align with those type of people that like shooting, but aren't isn't really a gun or an accessory for a gun would is kind of what I want to get into and kind of be able to sell that stuff because you could actually kind of sell what I'm wanting to on like Etsy. So my wife knows all about Etsy, and I've watched some videos on people setting up an Etsy shop and some things to do and some things not to do. So I'm definitely going to try Etsy, probably TikTok shop. That's going to be her because I know nothing about TikTok shop. Probably sell some stuff on Facebook Marketplace. I know it's not recommended, but I do have a lot of local customers. So if there's some things that I can sell locally, that would help too. And then also at trade shows, have those on the table to buy as well. And no, just to answer the question, I'm sure I'll get, I'm not going to be selling any sort of 3D printed gun or anything like that. I'm going to stay away from that stuff. So what I'm thinking about doing as far as attracting some of the same type of customers is making things like for gifts. Like if you're looking for a gift for somebody that's into shooting, what would they want? And one thing that I'm actually trying out right now are coasters because coasters are cheap. Everybody needs them or wants them, and they're inexpensive to make. They're inexpensive to buy. So right now I have some Glock set of coasters that are printing with a holder and things. So that's one thing I think I personally would love to have, whether it's a Glock or I'm going to make different, models based on the manufacturer and stuff. So make Springfield, SIG, stuff like that. But kind of cool gift ideas for somebody that's into shooting sports that's not necessarily a gun or stuff like that because that can get expensive and then the whole gifting a gun thing becomes an issue. So I want to get into some cool things like gifts for people that are into shooting. So there's a bunch of ideas that I have just beyond coasters, but I think coasters is a good way to start because it does not take a lot of design or a lot of time to print, and just you can print a lot of those and then just see how those sell while I'm researching some other stuff as well. There's some cool like holders or attachments for people that have gun walls like the one behind me or grid walls that they can attach cool things to. So looking into stuff like that and just other gift ideas for people that are into shooting and looking at the competition on Etsy and stuff like that. There's not a lot of competition for that type of stuff, which is nice because it seems like anybody that's getting into selling stuff with 3D printing is all kind of selling the same stuff. And I want to kind of not do that. I want to sell not necessarily stuff that I develop myself because that's going to take a while, but things that are a little bit different than what everybody else is doing. You see people selling those trinkets and fidget things and those articulating dragons. Sure, those are cool, but there's so many people selling those. It's going to be hard to, reach people and get them to buy from you where they have a store that's been around forever and already have the sales. So why would they go to somebody new when they can buy it probably cheaper from this big farm of somebody that has a bunch of printers and can sell it for a lot cheaper? So I want to kind of bring you along my journey learning how to sell 3D printed stuff online. If that's something you're interested in, try different things. I know you have to market things and do ads, and I'm going to show you kind of what I do and how it works, and if that's something that maybe you can apply towards your business or not. And then also how to set up thumbnails or pictures, because that's something that is very important. Kind of like these YouTube videos, you got to have a good thumbnail. Same thing, you have to have good photos of the product that you are doing. I just see people just, have them on their printer or just have bad photos. Not a good way to sell products. And then having a good description, which my wife is going to help me do because she's way better at words than I am. So I'm going to kind of test some things and just kind of document how it goes. And then that way you can kind of take some notes and ideas and apply it to your business of whatever works for me, and maybe some cool things that I print you can also sell as well. And that is another thing. If you are going to sell 3D printed stuff, if you are using a file that somebody has already made, you have to make sure that it is commercially available to sell that product. So you'll be able to easily tell when you're looking up the 3D model if they do allow that. If so, cool. You just have to give them credit in your ad that you got the design from this person. Not a big deal. If they have it marked not for commercial use, then unfortunately you can't use that file. So that's what I'm going to kind of start doing. But I'm also going to get on Fiverr and see if I can find somebody that can make something kind of what I'm wanting to sell. And that's another option if you don't know the 3D modeling portion yet, is getting on Fiverr. It's pretty inexpensive to have somebody actually put something together for you. It can be as little as 10 bucks or, can go up from there depending on what you're having them model for you and the number of revisions there are. So that is another thing to look for, is somebody to make the files for you if you're not into modeling. I haven't learned it yet. I've downloaded both Blender and Fusion 360 and tried to do a couple things in there, and that's going to take some time. It's a whole new skill to learn, and it looks intimidating. I'm sure it's easier than it looks, but it's going to take some time before I'm able to do that. So I'm going to start doing some stuff that I find commercially available on like Maker's Mark and stuff like that, or also see if I can hire out some modeling through Fiverr. If you guys know anybody that can model, let me know down in the comments. Maybe we can work together. But eventually I want to get to where I can model my own stuff and maybe use my own logo in some of the stuff I sell as well. So that will kind of help the business too. So definitely not something I was thinking I would get into. And then of course, like I told my buddy, I'm like, don't bring it over because it's going to turn into a whole thing. And it has. So here we are. So I figured, why not make some videos on this and see how it goes. So if you guys do like these kind of videos on the whole 3D thing, if you want to learn about 3D printing in general, I'm going to do some stuff on that, kind of some reviews and some tips and tricks on the new printer that I have, but then also on the business side, kind of show you guys that as well. I'm going to try and come out with videos consistently on that kind of stuff. I know I've put this channel on the back burner. I've just kind of been focusing more on my other channels, but with this, I think this is a good spot for it because 3D printing doesn't fit on those other channels, but I think I can kind of fit it in with this one. So if you guys are interested, hit that subscribe button. It is totally free. Or if you have any guesses on the printer that I did buy, put it down in the comments section and we'll see if you're right or not when the next video comes out. So thanks for watching and good luck if you end up buying one. And yeah, it's a journey, but it's fun. There's a lot of, especially with this one, it was fun, but there was also a lot of headache. I'm hoping there's less headache with this new one I got, which I think there will be. Good luck 3D printing. We'll catch you guys on the next video.